While the Buckley class with its turbo-electric drive was the first attempt to address the diesel engine shortage in World War II US production of destroyer escorts, another attempt running almost in parallel would become the Cannon class. Although using the larger Buckley class hull as its basis, the Cannons actually reverted back to diesels, using the same 4-engine diesel-electric drive as the Evetts class. This was partially because the initially projected shortage of diesel engines turned out to be not quite as bad as was first feared for a number of reasons, but also because the longer Buckley-type hull allowed for significantly more fuel to be carried, as well as a higher top speed compared to the Evetts class thanks to a better length-to-beam ratio, and the diesel-electric plant was somewhat lighter than the turbo-electric drive, which further helped with efficiency. Thus, the Cannons had a similar armament to the Buckleys, 3 single 3-inch guns, 2 super-firing forward and 1 aft, plus somewhere around 8 single 20mm Oerlikons and a twin 40mm Bofors as built, although this would vary hugely over time and per ship, together with a single triple torpedo launcher, a Hedgehog launcher, and various depth charge rails and launchers. Speed dropped somewhat. Although at 21 knots, it was still a couple of knots faster than the Evetts class, thanks to that longer hull, but range went through the roof. The combination of diesel efficiency and more fuel, pushing range well past 10,000 nautical miles at cruising speed, around double the range of the previous classes. 116 ships would be ordered, although with only 72 completed, this would be the smallest production run of the first 4 destroyer escort types, all of which would start construction in 1942. During World War II, most of the ships would serve in the US Navy, although a small number would be transferred to the Free French Navy and the Brazilian Navy. Their lower speed meant that many of these vessels would see service wholly, or primarily, in the Atlantic, where convoy escort and hunter-killer missions against U-boats didn't require quite as high a top speed as some of the fleet escort missions in the Pacific did. Although some would serve in this operational area as well, but mainly escorting the slower amphibious forces as well as the occasional escort carrier group. Post-war, the class would be largely decommissioned and disposed of from US service pretty quickly. But 10 additional Allied navies would receive examples of the class in such numbers that, in the end, about 75% of all of the cannons built would at some point or other fly a foreign flag. And this actually proved to be of some benefit to the class's survival, as at least 3 of them are still known to exist. These consist of the USS McCann, which entered Brazilian service in 1944 as the Comandante Bauru, and served until 1982 before decommissioning and becoming a museum ship in Rio de Janeiro. The USS Heminger, or Heminger possibly, which saw out World War II under US colours, then went in and out of service in the late 40s and early 50s, mainly in training roles, but then in 1959 was transferred to the Royal Thai Navy as the HTMS Pin Clau, I think, where, believe it or not, she's actually still in active service, albeit as a training ship, the Thai Navy being something of an unsung hero of old ship preservation across a large and, frankly, somewhat bewildering variety of classes. And finally, of course, there is USS Slater, which served out World War II under US colours, but was then transferred to the Greek Navy as the Atos in early 1950, after a brief period in the reserves. Her active service career in the Hellenic Navy came to an end in 1991, but she was then donated back to the US under the care of the Destroyer Escort Sailors Association, initially moored in New York City alongside the carrier USS Intrepid, but by the late 1990s, she'd been moved to her current home in Albany, New York State, where she remains to this day as a museum ship, open to visitors in the non-winter months, and in a frankly brilliant state of ongoing preservation.
That's it for this video. Thanks for watching. If you have a comment or suggestion for a ship to review, let us know in the comments below. Don't forget to comment on the pinned post for dry dock questions.